Okay, I'll call to order the regular board meeting for Tuesday, May 22nd. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Estheimer.
Present.
Mr. Freitas.
Here.
Mr. Green.
Here.
Mr. Koopser.
Here.
Ms. Mossop.
Present.
Dr. Pomponio.
Here.
Mr. Craig.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Southgate Community Schools' mission statement is Learning for Life. The vision statement is Southgate Community Schools, the best choice for students and parents. Okay. Do we have any revisions to the agenda tonight?
Yes, Mr. President.
Dr. Pomponio?
I'd like to make a motion to revise and add under L consent, number 2, May 8th, 2018 work session meeting minutes.
Any other revisions? Okay, I'll now entertain a motion on the revised agenda.
Make a motion to approve the revised agenda. I'll second.
There's a motion and support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have an agenda. Are there any citizens who would like to speak tonight? Okay, and we're quickly on to presentations. School District Improvement Report.
I've actually combined this with the overview of the accountability index as well that you kind of had referenced with the other presentations for the school improvement report. So I've kind of added that. I'll do my best to be speedy. So with the new index plan, this replaces the scorecard that we've had in the past. There are 7 components, as you see there. Each one has a specific weighting in regards to the specific component. Sorry, just wait to see.
Can you pull the microphone over just a little bit?
His evaluation's over and he's still working.
Okay, so it's still not in the presentation mode. There you go. I think so. Nope, it's still showing the notes.
It notes.
I guess I really don't need it if, let's just not do that. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay, so the 7 components of the index system include these that you see before you with the different weights. There are certain buildings, the index score is based by building. It's not a district score as we've seen in the past. So because of that, there are certain components like graduation rate. Not all elementaries obviously would have that component. So they just redistribute the percentages. So this screen is an example of how that might look if you were a school that didn't have every single one of the components for the index. Each index component is based 0 to 100. The state average for the overall index score is 66. And I have a breakdown for you later on that you'll be able to see each score. And there was a label that identified schools that would be comprehensive support schools, which in the past it was called priority schools. That cutoff number was 30.68 of an index score. So all the schools in the state got baseline data on proficiency growth, each one of the components, and then the state decided what the targets would be based on a 75th percentile. So the targets that are listed in the upcoming slides, you will see, are set for us for 2024 to 2025. So those targets are not going to change. It's the same target. These are those listed. Proficiency in math and ELA, growth in math and ELA, the graduation year targets for each cohort, progress in English language, the school quality success. There are different components that make up that overall component: attendance, advanced coursework, post-secondary enrollment, test participation. And again, all these targets stay the same until 2024-25. The next slide shows what it looks like for parents when you log into myschooldata.org. Each one of these is broken down, and you can click into each component for each school. Subgroups are required to be reported on by the state. However, a subgroup is not used in the accountability index if it doesn't have 30 students or more. The proficiency component, the targets for students to reach proficiency in ELA is 60%. The targets for students to reach proficiency in math is 47.55. So growth is another component. In the past, we've not had growth. We've only had proficiency when we talk about accountability, and growth is a new component for the index. Growth is only looked at for English and math, and is determined by student growth percentiles. And basically, these are measurements when the student takes the test the first time on the M-STEP, then the second year they take the test. Students that have like scores in the state of Michigan are then paired together. So it's a way to compare students without, maybe they come in at different levels. We have students that are maybe a little bit lower, a little bit more behind, but it looks at growth over time with their academic peers. So proficiency isn't the only factor that determines if a student is learning in school. The growth targets for math are 50.70%, ELA growth target 57.92. The ways that student can demonstrate growth, there are two ways. You either show that you have your student growth percentile, you've met the adequate growth target, or you move from not proficient to proficient. So there are two ways that students can demonstrate if they've met the growth target or not for the index. Participation in all the tests are the same. Each school targets to meet 95% participation in all of the tests for M-STEP, MyAccess, and SAT. And also this year it's including ELs for WIDA, the WIDA assessment. The graduation rate, there is a different growth target for each cohort. Students get, schools get held accountable for the 4-year, 5-year, and 6-year graduation rate. And you can see the targets listed there.
This is where it's cut off on ours.
Oh, so there's something that happened with the copier, and I'm not sure that, it wasn't on the slide. I don't know why it printed that way.
Just give us 1 second.
Sure. So while this index was for the 2016-17 school year, they pulled this information for last year from the 15-16 school year. English learner progress is a new component with the index. The target for those students meeting progress is 59.26%. And again, there's two ways that they can show progress on the WIDA assessment, from their student growth percentile to their adequate growth percentile, or moving from not proficient to proficient. So the school quality success is one component, however, it's made up of 5 pieces. So in the pink chart, you can see the actual weight within the school quality component itself, and then the weight in the overall index system. And then the second chart is the actual targets for each one of those subcomponents in school quality student success. So, and this is the first time that we've tracked this information in an accountability format. Not chronically absent, again, this is a new piece. Students that have been defined as missing 10% or more of the school days in a year, or 18 or more days, would be chronically absent. So the target for each school building is 92.37% to have their students not be chronically absent. Access to K-8 arts and physical education, basically their way to measure this is that every 145 students would have one full-time teacher teaching arts or physical education. And this is documented in the REP system. So teachers with those codes in the system are then utilized to determine how much of an FTE they are available to every 145 students. It's a ratio. Same for librarians and media specialists. The ratio that they use for accountability is every 8,312.5 students is per one media specialist. I'm not sure about the 0.5 student, but. Advanced coursework. This information is gained, again, from the 15-16 school year, not necessarily from last year when the other information has been gathered. But this measures students that in grades 11 or 12 have taken a dual enrollment CTE course, advanced placement course, and the target is 49.82%. And then post-secondary enrollment. This is where our post-secondary institutions are submitting information to the state for their index, and students who are enrolled in a 2-year or 4-year university within 12 months after graduation. And the target is 74.1%. So again, the labels have changed. We don't have priority schools anymore or focus schools. One of the labels is a comprehensive support improvement, or a CSI school, and those are similar to the priority schools, the bottom 5%, or any school that has scored below a 30.68 on the index system would fall under this category. We currently do not have any of those labels. None of our buildings actually have any of the labels that are following. The next label is additional targeted support schools, or ATS schools. And this is any school that might have 3 or more subgroups with a 30.68 below index score. And then the last label that a school could possibly have would be a targeted support and improvement label, or a TSI school, where they would have 1 to 2 subgroups performing at that 30.68 or below in the index system. So that was an overview of the new Michigan School Index System. Any questions on just that information?
I do have one, Mr. President.
I'll do my best.
When we're talking about post-secondary enrollment within the 12 months of graduation, and it says 2-year college or 4-year university, am I to assume that that would include any trade school or certification program?
When this was shared with us, with the presenter at RISA, we asked them the very same question. They said, yes, it would include those schools as well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So for me, when I look at the entire district improvement plan, this is really the first time I've actually dug into the data district-wide. So I will be honest, I have quite a few graphs in here because it's the first time that I really got to look at data, again, you know, K-12. But I actually did delete about 12 right before I came, thinking it was already too long. So I'll try not to spend too much time on that. I just feel like this is a great opportunity for a snapshot of where we stand as a district in relation to all the tests. So that's kind of what I focused on, a compilation of everything. Basically, in the accountability index, we're only looking at math and ELA for growth and proficiency. However, I did report on the science and the social studies and what we've taken on the MSTEP and the MME. And I also included our new benchmark assessment for the early literacy in mathematics, just because it's the first time we've had our students take that assessment. So this is really a baseline year. That's why I included that slide. This is, first time we've had the index information, first time we've done the K2 early literacy. So the next slide with the green, this is the information from each building from the index. Now granted, there are 7 different components. I only focused on ELA proficiency in math and ELA in math and growth, just because I felt like that was really what we're tracking as our student achievement. So I put the targets on top, and again, those are the targets that are staying with us through 2024-25. And then underneath in the green is just the state average. So that baseline data that the state pulled from all the schools. And so then I was looking at our performance, and I highlighted the boxes in green that we're at or above the state average. But also if you look, in each column, there are some components that are very close to the state average. That's worth noting. Asher and Beacon are always unique in our reporting system. Because Beacon has 100% students with IEPs, they're not actually included in the index. So while this information is below that number that I mentioned to you, 30.68, where it would typically be called a comprehensive support school, it's not, because 100% of the students have an IEP. And Asher, when I dug into that, they're not labeled a comprehensive needs school because 30, and this is where my notes are missing, so I'll do my best to remember. You have to have 30 students or more in your graduation cohort to be identified for graduation rate, which we only had 14. So that information was excluded. And then to have growth, you had to have 30 students from one year to another to track growth. And so because we did not have 30 students in that's why you see those dashes there. So this is specifically relating to the index that I just shared. So the next slide is our K2 English Early Literacy Mathematics Benchmark Assessment. And so you can see the top, it goes from kindergarten, first and second in English Language Arts, and math, kindergarten, first and second. And basically this was just an overview of where we stood as a district. The I is for ISD, and the ST is for state. We're currently still in the window for this assessment, so I don't have a comparison for, this is fall. We will have spring, so I could always share that in the future. We just don't have that information at this time. So looking at M-STEP, this is the 4th year that we've taken the M-STEP, so there's 3 years worth of scores there. And I mean, just briefly looking at the trend information, you can definitely see the big transition year from elementary to middle school. It seems where we, that's where we take a dip, which I feel like we have some good plans moving forward to address that transition from 5th to 6th grade, which I will share with you. And then math with the M-STEP, I think that it looks like the trend shows that that dip happens a little bit before the transition to middle school, maybe 4th to 5th. And social studies and science are in there, and once again, they're not included in the index, but I felt it was a good snapshot for us to see where we stand as a district. Social studies is first, and then science. Grades 4 and 7 were science. This year, the science moved to 8th grade, so that will look different next year. The next 2 slides are the M-STEP for high school. Social studies is first. I pulled Anderson High School out of the district data for you, knowing that Asher and Beacon, that information isn't typically included in the index, so I pulled it as well here. And then science for the high school, 11th grade. And this is the 3rd year we took the SAT for the college readiness component of the index. And what you have before you is 15-16 district scores, and then I pulled, again, Anderson High School out of that, and then next to that, 15-16 for the state, and then 16-17 for the district, 16-17 for Anderson High School, and 16-17 for the state. So you can see from 15-16 to 16-17, the state overall total SAT score bumped up about 8 points, where at district level as well as Anderson, it's about 20 points from one year to the next. And the last slide with this is not in the index, but it's a positive note to share. This is looking at the longitudinal data for the same students. So in 2016, the ninth graders that took the PSAT 8-9 in the top chart there, compared to 2017 when they were 10th graders taking the PSAT 10. We did not have a intervention plan at that time with Khan Academy as we have in the past for 10th graders. So the score that jumped from one year to the next at Anderson High School was 56 points, and the state was 57 points that you see in that chart there with no intervention. And the same for evidence-based reading and writing, as well as math with no intervention. And then below, this is the students that did receive the intervention with the Khan Academy incentives. And the improvement from when the students were in 10th grade in 2016 to the 2017 when they took the SAT, their junior year. They improved 92 points from one year to the next, and the state improved 83 points from one year to the next. So just a positive to note. So what is the focus for next year? We actually met recently with our instructional leadership and data team, and one of our primary focuses that we determined based on our 5-year plan, as well as looking at the perception surveys that we just received from students, parents, and staff, is that really focusing on our social emotional learning skills, as well as training staff in trauma-informed instruction. Having those conversations about giving those students those skills, you know, perseverance and mindfulness and growth mindset, really focusing on that. So hopefully that has a positive impact on them being able to learn the actual academic rigor that we have in place for K-12. I mentioned before, one of my primary goals next year is to really dig into K-12 math. I think we see, you know, definitely across the board, it's an area of focus. And again, that's one of the plans that I have in place to really do an audit of the curriculum and dig deep and see what's actually being taught, when it's being taught, and if there are gaps in the learning for the students. Maintaining the MTSS for K-5, and then expanding it to build on an MTSS program for 6 through 12. The state has provided monies to fund benchmark testing for grades 3 through 8. And with that opportunity, we can use the NWA benchmark tests to assist with our MTSS program in grades 6 through 8. So we can identify what those areas of weaknesses are for those students in math and ELA, and hopefully make those adjustments to instruction, as well as provide opportunity for remediation during the school day for those students. That's the plan for next year, or some of the plans. Any questions?
Any questions? That's the plan.
The trauma-informed instruction, does that fit into any of the indexed components? Or is that just something that's in addition to?
I think it will fit, because knowing that we address those needs of those students, that I think they will, it will translate into their academic performance. So while it may not line up exactly with one of the indexes, I think we will definitely, you know, reap the benefits in the academic performance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Stress time.
Could you remind me what MTSS, what the acronym is?
Multi-tiered system of supports.
Thank you.
No? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we don't have any student government representatives. Committee reports. The first one is Policy Committee.
Okay, we met with the Lusk and Albertson on the 15th, and we covered additional policies. There's a 35-page total policy, so we covered the 5,000 and 2,000 series.
Okay. Thank you. Finance Committee?
Thank you. We did not have a finance committee meeting since the last board meeting. The next one's scheduled tomorrow at 5:30.
Thank you. And anti-bullying?
The committee will meet or plan on putting a date together probably after commencement happens, because there's a lot going on in the district right now.
Okay. Finance report. Ms. Blackman.
So I just wanted to give you a little update since the last meeting with the board approval of Dean Transportation, to provide our transportation starting July 1st. A question was asked of me about, even though there's an increase in cost to the district, the special ed portion of that increase, which is approximately $89,000, we will receive 70% funding from the state of Michigan through our state aid, which would be approximately $63,000 based on their estimates and their proposals. With just transitioning to them, we will not see that funding until the 2019-20 school year. We have to go through a whole year of costs, and then when I file the final expenditure report in the fall of 2019, the state reviews it, and then they adjust, they reconcile our funding for the prior year that I did the report for, and that becomes our new budget for the current year. So it's always off a year. So there will be a timing difference when we start seeing those savings because of the additional costs in transportation. Also, when the buses are in the district, the buses that are used for our routes will have the name Southgate Community Schools on the buses. Dean Transportation will be on the bus, but it's in a different location. But the label that goes all the way across the side of it will say Southgate Schools. I don't want the community to think we bought new buses.
Confusing, yeah.
It's part of our contract, and that's just what Dean Transportation does to support the district. So.
That's good.
Also, today and tomorrow, our auditors are in the district and in my office, starting the preliminary work for the audit. And as part of that, I left at each of your seats, there's a 8-page communication from the auditors. It's not something that has to be voted on. It's the annual engagement letter that I'm required to provide to the superintendent and the Board of Education, and it needs to be distributed during their planning period, which it includes their responsibilities in the financial statement audit, including responsibilities for testing and reporting on compliance with laws and regulations and internal controls, and the plan, scope, and timing of the audit, along with what the district's responsibilities are to them. And the fee in the engagement letter agrees with the fees that were quoted to the district when we extended their contract. So it's just for information and communication to the board. And that's all I have today.
All right, thank you very much. Curriculum report. That was it?
You got my report.
We already got it? All right. Superintendent's report.
So it's the end of the school year, and things are really busy. We are ending the school year while making plans for next year. We have recently scheduled hostile intruder training for our staff for August and September, and we are waiting word from Lansing regarding the potential of more funds to help with school security and safety. Just to draw the community's attention to some major events coming up. The Beacon graduation ceremony is this Thursday, May 24th at 12 o'clock at the Holiday Inn on Northline. The Anderson Honors Assembly is on Monday, June 4th at 6 p.m. in the high school auditorium. You have an invitation in front of you from Mr. Lyons. The Anderson graduation will be held on Thursday, June 7th at 7 p.m. at the Yak Arena. And the Asher graduation ceremony will be held on Tuesday, June 12th at 7 p.m. at the Wayne County Community College at 7 p.m. That's also a scheduled board meeting, which is on the agenda later on. So that's it.
Great, thank you very much. Any citizens who are having second thoughts about speaking and want to talk? Okay, none. All right, that takes us to the consent agenda, which consists of May 8th, 2018 board meeting minutes and May 8th, 2018 board meeting minutes and May 8th, 2018 work session meeting minutes.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve those consent items.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Dr. Pomponio. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, and then we're on to action item number 1, which is the recommendation to expel student 2017-18-2. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve the district recommendation to permanently expel student 2017-18-2.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Green. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, supported by Dr. Pomponio. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes 7-0. Item number 2 is the approval of parent 2017-18-1 for volunteer work in the school district. Is this being presented by you, Ms. Pastor?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We're
I'm
moving quick.
thinking about something. You received a letter in your confidential, stamped confidential from parent 2017-18-1. You are voting to approve or not the option to allow this parent to volunteer for Southgate Schools.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Pastor? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring the discussion back up here. I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make motion to approve the district recommendation to allow 2017-18-2 parent to volunteer to Southgate Schools.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Supported by Mr. Koopser. Okay, is there any discussion on the item? Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. And item number 3 is the HR update.
You're being asked to approve the HR report as a separate action item, agenda item on this board because it contains layoff information. You will see the names of the laid-off employees on the HR report. Those names and their respective positions are considered confidential. They will receive their notice Wednesday, tomorrow. The building administrator will deliver the letters personally.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Pastor? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring the discussion back up to the table and entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the May 22nd, 2018 Human Resources Report that includes the layoff notices for 3 employees for the 2018-19 school year.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Estheimer. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Dr. Pomponio. Any discussion on the item? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes 7-0. Item number 4. Approval of closing general fund escrow account.
I'm requesting that the Board of Education approve the closing of the separate general fund escrow non-interest-bearing checking account held with Huntington Bank ending in 6502. The board approved the opening of this account on January 23, 2018, to hold the funds received from ORS for purposes of distributing refunds related to the 3% healthcare contributions under Public Act 75, which was ruled unconstitutional. All of the funds received have been processed. So I want to just add that we've process all the checks, current employees were, they were direct deposited. All the inactive, retired, and deceased employees of the district, checks were issued. Letters were sent out to all of those individuals with a form that was included that they had to fill out and notarize and bring back so that we could verify their identity. If they've returned the form, the checks have been issued. If they have not returned the form to my office, we have the checks and we're holding them. We'll probably hold them for a year. We can actually turn them over to the state sooner than that, but I will hold them for a year, and then they will be turned over, any unclaimed checks will be turned over to the state. So I encourage anyone who worked for the district between July 1st of 2010 and September 3rd of 2012, you probably have some funds coming back to you, and call my office, and we can verify and get you taken care of. But all the checks have been issued.
So they'll cash a check out of a closed account?
No, actually what happens is the escrow account was used to hold the funds until we process the payroll. So then as we process the payroll, and that's the transactions you see, when the payroll was processed, it comes out of our payroll checking account. Our payroll checking account is a zero balance account. So then the funds actually come from our main general fund account. So actually nothing.
So you're not using that account anymore?
No, it's not used for the checks, no.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So the purpose that it was set up for is complete. So I'd like to close the account.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. McLaughlin? No? Okay, we'll bring the discussion back up to the table, and I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the closing of the Huntington Bank General Fund escrow account number ending in 6502.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Koopser,
Second.
supported by Mr. Estheimer. Is there any discussion on the item? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes 7-0. Action item number 5, approval of increase in lunch prices for 2018-2019.
Every year, we're required to verify if our lunch prices are in line with the amount the federal government pays for free meals. This requirement was established with the passing of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act and is meant to ensure that paid meals produce a similar contribution to revenue as the free reimbursement rate. If we are below the threshold level set by the USDA, we must raise our lunch prices. The level is determined by subtracting the federal paid meal reimbursement from the free reimbursement. The weighted average price was calculated at $2.90, and our current weighted average price is $2.84. In order for us to meet the threshold, it is the recommendation of the Food Service Director that we increase our elementary prices by 10 cents, middle school prices by 5 cents, and no increase at the high school lunch prices. This will put us just above the level needed for the 2018-19 school year at a weighted average price of $2.91. So I also included the worksheets that are used, a lot of blank pages. We don't need to use all the pages. The board did approve a 5-cent increase for the 2017-18 school year across the board. In doing the calculation, this was the only way, and once I also test it, that we can get just at that $2.90. We couldn't even it out again because of the quantity of meals that's served at the elementary level is so much higher than at the secondary level. So that's the recommendation.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. McLaughlin? Okay, bring the discussion back to the table. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve an increase of 10 cents in the elementary lunch prices, an increase of 5 cents in the middle school lunch prices, and no increase in the high school lunch prices for the 2018-19 school year.
I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Green. Any discussion on the item? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes 7-0. Action item number 6 is the approval of a one-year extension of the pizza contract with Domino's Pizza for 2018-2019.
So it's the recommendation of the food service director that we extend our current pizza agreement with Domino's Pizza. Although there is a price increase, it is the first one in 2 years, and also included in your packet was a letter from Domino's Pizza explaining the reason for the increase, and it's mainly due to the cost of the increase in the minimum wage. So the price has gone from $5.75 to $6.50. On page 8 of the current agreement, it states the Southgate schools can elect to extend the contract for up to 2 one-year renewals. Domino's is required to submit a new proposal for pricing by May 31st of 2018, and the letter attached is considered their proposal. Domino's Pizza was the only participant that turned in a completed bid pack for the contract last year and the year before. There has been no issue with their quality of product or deliveries to the schools. Domino's has been a good partner with Southgate schools in feeding our students. So it's our recommendation that we extend the contract for 1 year.
I have a question. I thought the extension was only based on that current price, not on an increased price. If
No,
we're gonna
that's why they have to submit a proposal if there's an increase.
But if we're going to get prices, shouldn't we advertise it again and give everybody an opportunity?
Since the last 2 years, we've done that, and the only respondent has been Domino's, and their service to the district. It's food service, and my recommendation that we continue with Domino's, at least for 1 more year.
Dr. Pomponio.
Okay, so since the past 2 years, we haven't had any bid packs come back from any other pizza places. And I was wondering if they were aware that we're no longer doing the wheat crust, because I think that might have turned off the other ones that didn't do the wheat. So maybe if they were aware, I'm not sure if they're aware that it was
To my
back
knowledge,
the wheat.
they were aware. And also, we did continue to get the exemption for 2018-19.
I thought the wheat was in the RFP.
It was in the RFP.
Right.
So it was not clear that we're not,
No, the wheat was in the RFP. It was very,
it was required as part of the
Yeah,
RFP
yeah.
was to provide wheat.
no. In the latest RFP, that went out, they broke down the requirements for submitting a proposal, and one of those has to do with the amount of cheese, the crust, and it was in there that it wasn't required as a wheat crust.
Okay.
I just seem to remember we got that out of it, but I thought that there was a mix-up in the RFP, and it went out still saying that wheat was
Not to
required.
my understanding.
I don't think so.
Here's the pizza expert.
With the contract set up as a 2+1+1, and you're recommending that we extend it for the first 1+1.
So I'm doing the first one.
+1. What is in the contract that says what would trigger a non-+1 extension consideration?
It's at our discretion,
Strictly at our discretion? Okay.
yes.
My only concern is they're not holding their price.
I'm sorry?
My only concern is they're not holding their price. And if they're going up, then I would prefer we give everybody the opportunity to take a look at it, but, okay. I don't know if you have anything else, or,
Did the minimum wage go up over the past year?
I'm sorry.
It went up January 1st to $9.25 an hour.
From?
It's been going up steadily the past 4 years. I think it was, prior to that, it was $8.75, I think. Or $8.50.
any other questions for Ms. McLaughlin? Okay. Go ahead and bring the discussion back to the table. I'll entertain a motion for item number 6.
Make a motion to approve a 1-year extension of the pizza contract with Domino's Pizza for the 2018-2019 school year.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Green. Any discussion on the item? Mr. Timer?
So, in order to In order to open up that RFP to see if there is some competition that could be made due to them raising the price, because sometimes, sometimes these pizza places may have backed down and because Domino's may have underbid them or whatever, or they knew traditionally what they've paid in the past, so they may have stayed away from the process. What does that process look like, and what is the time frame needed in order to make that happen prior to next school year?
It's at least a month-long process. Because we have to update the RFP, and then we have to post it, and then give them time to submit their proposals.
But when do we need to know by to secure this contract so they can be prepared for?
I am not sure. Mr. Connors was not able to be here tonight, so
Okay.
I would have to check with him.
Okay, I just wondered what kind of timing we have.
In the past, I'm going to say it's been later in the summer,
I
like
remember we
August.
talked about this last.
Well, last year, it was later in the summer, because I remember the pizza tasting was on my birthday, so.
Okay.
Okay.
The 75-cent increase in the price of the pizza, how is that going to affect to the slice for the students?
I would assume the slices would be the same. It's just their costs are going up.
And so we're going to reflect that, I assume, in the cost of the lunch.
So the district will be eating the 75 cents?
No, we're going to be, I assume, charging more for pizza in the lunch line, right?
He did not discuss that with me.
That's a good question.
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I personally feel like with a request for an extension for 1 year, without giving other people, businesses, an opportunity to jump in and try to at least give an RFP, I'm in the position where I feel like we should, I'm not going to support this.
Okay.
I'm feeling much the same way. If this was if they were holding their price for a year, I could see moving forward without any bids or anything. If they said, hey, we're going to hold our price for the year, but I guess if they're going up, we're kind of giving them a chance to rebid it by themselves and nobody else, which I kind of don't think is a fair way to treat it personally.
And
That's just
without-
my personal
And without the
opinion.
food service director here to ask some of these questions, I think that maybe we should hold off on.
Mr. President,
Ms. Massey.
if I may, Teresa, how much is a lunch at the high school?
Right now,
$2
it is $3.25.
Right, so it's 3 1/4, and there are the $6.75 or $6.50 is for large pizza, right?
Yes.
Which is like 8 to 10 pieces. So we should remember that on pizza days, we actually benefit a bit.
Well, there's more to the lunch than just a pizza. It's everything. I mean, you don't just get 2 pieces of pizza for $3.50. You get a drink and I assume some kind of fruit. But
To the point of, I'm sorry,
oh,
Mr. President, thank you. To the point of the increase, I'm just doing the percentages. I was looking at minimum wage increases versus which I expect is the majority of staff, of the Domino's staff. From $8.15, which was minimum wage in 2014, up to $9.25, which would be 2018. That's a 13.45% increase, whereas the increase of $5.75 to $6.50 is a 13% increase. It seems like it's staying with what would have been at least over that 4-year cost of living. I don't know what exactly their estimates were when they originally would have bid on it. I'd imagine that would have been some type of prevailing wage in 2015 or 16 at the time. It doesn't seem to, in terms of cost of living, or excuse me, minimum wage increases, it seems to be in line, just from that, just kind of back of the envelope calculation. So I'm not feeling the heartburn that maybe others are. So,
Mr. President. Piggyback on Mr. Kuchar too, the increase staying in line, I'm also to the feeling where I'm not feeling that big of a burn on this, especially with a note that says that Domino's has been good to us for the 2 years. We have no reason, in my opinion, to dismiss someone who's done a pretty good job for this school district that has stayed their increase within the cost of the increase of the minimum wage. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the item? No? Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Now, just to remind you that the motion is to approve the one-year extension of the pizza contract with Domino's Pizza with the new pricing of $6.50 per pizza. So we'll go ahead and we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, that's 5 to 2. 2 noes. Okay, that motion passes. Okay, action item number 7, approval of one-year extension of the milk and dairy contract with Berkshire Dairy for 2018-2019.
Just a reminder to the board that the milk and dairy contract is done through the Southeast Wayne County Buying Cooperative. They met on May 4th, and their conversations was how service was for everyone that was provided by Berkshire Dairy and if there were any issues that the cooperative had. On page 3 of their current contract, it says the initial contract commencing on July 1st, 2017 for 1 school year, ending on July 1st, 2018. At that time, the co-op can elect to extend the contract for up to 4 one-year renewals. A motion was put forward to extend the current contract for 1 school year, and if there were no changes to the present terms. The cooperative did agree to extend the contract, and Berkshire Dairy has also agreed to this extension, so our recommendation is that we accept the co-op's extension for 1 year for the milk and dairy.
Okay. Any questions from Ms. McLaughlin? Okay, I'll entertain a motion on the approval of a one-year extension of the dairy contract for Berkshire Dairy.
Make a motion to approve the one-year extension of the milk and dairy contract with Berkshire Dairy for the 2018-2019 school year.
Motion by Mr. Koopser. Is there support?
Support?
Supported by Dr. Pomponio. Any discussion on the item? Okay, seeing none, go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes 7 to 0. Do we have any employee representatives tonight? Okay, not seeing any. Information and announcements. Not all at once. I have no information announcements. Please make a note of today's date.
That's rare.
That's rare. Okay, on to work items. First one is the City of Southgate Park proposal.
All right, first of all, my name is Dustin Lent, City Administrator for the City of Southgate. Thank you for your time today to let me come and approach you guys about a potential partnership. Unfortunately, our Parks and Recreation Director and also our architect on this project is both at a conference, so I should be able to answer most of the questions. If not, I will definitely do my best to get back with you. So before you, I'm going to speak away from the microphone. I think I'm loud enough. Before you see a kind of a park, it's our Kiwanis Park. It's located on Trenton Road. It's right beside Asher School. Located behind Asher School, so this is kind of Asher School here. I think you guys all hopefully got a map as well in your packet. Is some empty green space. Last year in November, the City of Southgate was very fortunate. The residents passed a 5-year recreation millage. Part of that millage, I would say one of the biggest responses that we got from our community was the interest in the dog park. Currently right now, Woodhaven and Brownstown do have dog parks. Woodhaven has now just closed their dog park to all residents of any other community except for Woodhaven and Trenton, and they are requiring all other communities to buy in to their dog parks. So our residents are very intrigued about potentially having a dog park in our community. Unfortunately, we have looked at a lot of our parks. As you can kind of see with Kiwanis, it is already very popular with our train rides. We also have Lions Park, but it has a trail that kind of goes around Lions Park. And in order to kind of fit it in there, the dog park would have been extremely small. And there's very few large green space, open green space areas in Southgate. So one of the areas that we thought was underutilized, that we thought would be a great benefit for our community, being right beside one of our local parks, is taking care of this asset that's right behind Asher School. So what we would like to ask the school is we would be coming back to you guys with a management service agreement and or a lease agreement, very similar to what we currently have with the school with our nature center. For those of you who aren't familiar with our nature center, it's located right beside the high school. In 1999, the city was able to obtain a grant for $550,000 where the city matched 25% of that. And as part of that grant, we now currently are leasing that land to the school. And that lease was $1 for a 100-year lease. So we're not actually looking for a 100-year lease for this, but we would be looking for a 50-year lease. The reason we'd be looking for a 50-year lease is because this project alone is going to approximately cost about $300,000. So we do want to make sure, since we are, the residents have asked for this, we don't want to put a brand new park there and then 5 years later, 6 years later, the school will be like, no, there's $300,000. We got to have you guys move. So we do want to have a lease or a management service agreement. The city would be responsible for maintaining the park, the upkeep of the park, as well as all mowing, drainage. Drainage would be a big issue if anybody's ever seen back there. We already currently have some drainage issues. That would be go into the cost of when we put the dog park out there, is taking care of that drainage. The dog park also would have a key fobs. So any of our city residents who want to join our dog park, there would be a small membership fee. They would get a key fob, and the dog park would have specific hours. So typically, your summer hours typically go until about dusk, 9:30, and the fall closes a little bit earlier. That way, if nobody's going to be back there after hours, they would not be able to get in. The key fob obviously would not work. That's kind of what we're here looking for today. If you guys have any questions, I should be able to answer them right now.
Mr. Estheimer.
Mr. President, through the chair, if you would let me ask, I was wondering, so the part that borders the backside there of Asher, now that's all, you talked about having a key fob, so that will be a gated-in area, so we don't have to worry about dog bites or anything like that. And that's specifically, that piece of land that you are interested in, that currently is just a wooded, undeveloped area right now. We're actually paying to maintain it at some, so we actually will save a little bit of money. We're actually, the school district's actually paying to maintain a portion of that property, correct?
Yeah, the school district is currently maintaining that. I'm sure your grass cutting company it's on their cut list.
Okay.
That grass does get cut. I'm sure it's not probably cut at the exact same time Asher is cut. It is not part of the city, so okay. That would be a small savings that you would have by probably not paying for to cut it. I'm sure there's no maintenance fees. I'm sure you don't worry about drainage, you don't worry about the flooding, so really it would just be a savings for the grass cutting.
And last question, access to that, what is the road there? Is that Trenton Road?
Trenton,
okay.
Yeah. So
there's nothing there developed currently, like access to that point. That would just be a part of the development, correct?
Correct. So currently right now at Kiwanis Park, which is located right along Trenton Road, that's where our train rides is. Mm-hmm. At the corner of Leroy and Trenton is where our main train station is. But at the far, which would be south side, there is a parking lot that is currently there. This is actually for anybody who comes to our Santa train rides. It's actually where Santa is housed. So at this location, there is a gravel parking lot. The city would be looking at paving that back lot. The access from this back lot, as you can kind of see on the drawing, there would be a walkway. The entrance to the dog park would currently be here. Now, obviously, once we do the survey work and the drainage work, we would have to make sure that the drainage and everything work for the access to be currently right there. Our dog park sign would be currently right here, and the access would be from right here. There is a large parking lot that the school did just recently pave that's behind Asher School. That I'm sure there will be probably some residents that will park there as well. And then ultimately, we would have, parking here. So if that did become an issue, a concern, or a problem, we could post parking access would be from Kiwanis Park.
Thank you.
Jill, I'm going to ask a question. That lot's pretty underutilized behind Asher, I'm going to assume.
There are ducks and geese there currently because it's very wet.
Okay.
So, Dustin, you didn't explain about that for the first fall that it's open, that parking lot is, that path would not be there.
Correct, yeah, so the very first year, so our goal with our dog park would be, with our 5-year recreation plan, we do have years laid out, year 1, year 2, 3, 4, and 5. Year 1 is the dog park, so if everything does work out and you guys agree to the terms and conditions, and then our city council also agrees to the terms and conditions, our step 1 would be do survey work, grading work, would be kind of the first beginning phases, and then installation of the park. Our goal would be to have the park being done by the end of fall, with the grand opening at the end of fall, with having really the true season beginning in early spring of 2019. Kiwanis Park here will be getting a facelift tentatively in year 4. And the facelift that Kiwanis Park will be receiving is a train pavilion will be put down at the south side along with restrooms. This area as well will be all redeveloped. There will also be LED lights put through the entire park with a walking path that will go in a new play area. Like I said, it's also will be in year 4. And the walking path to the dog park would be either, because this right here is a gravel lot right now, would be a mulch path, a gravel path in year 1. Just for financial reasons, it's not scheduled to year 4. So there would be a mulch path. Also, we would be, I would say, entertaining, like I said, we haven't really developed an entire area yet and how the grading will work. We might be asking for more of an access from your initial parking lot for 2 years, because after year 1, it'd be 2019 before this would even be open, to be able to access this back parking lot, because it's a little bit closer to the entrance until we have an actual concrete pathway done. Like I said, we'll know more of that once we're able to do the survey work, because as Mrs. Pastor said, we do have geese and ducks in the pond out there currently. So we have to figure out where the drainage is going to go, what's the easiest way to get the water out there. I'm sure dog lovers who visit dog parks will tell you the last thing they want to do is take their dogs and have them a muddy mess and get back in their car at a dog park. Mud's going to be, or wet grass is always going to be an issue, but the least amount of standing water we can have, the better it's going to be.
Mr. Cooper.
Just to clarify, of course, this would be leased by the city. It would also be insured by the city.
Yes, that is correct.
As I'm looking at the map up there, it looks like there's a pink outline. What appears to be the school properties outline.
Yes.
And then there's a white outline up there for the proposed park of 2.2 acres. It looks like it landlocks the bottom portion of the school property. So you would be maintaining within the park itself. How do we get through, because I imagine there's a fence around that outline. How do you get back to maintaining the very southern tip of the property itself?
The white line is actually a tentative fence line that will be created. So we would not kind of, like I said, this is a tentative drawing. We would leave access, and the city would make it easier. We would just lease from the pink line down. We wouldn't say we're going to just maintain what's in the white and have you guys come down and cut. We would be asking to maintain all of this, so this would be on the city's grass cutting. Also, once again, the biggest drainage issues that we do have are kind of more down this way. So this probably might need shifted a little bit more this way, where we may be going down to here where it could be drier, and opening up a pathway that'll be here for any kind of mowers, tractors, whatever, to be back and be able to mow.
So it looks like it's somewhere around a 3-acre lease potentially, with fenced-in space underneath that becomes, again, unutilized space, but, okay, just making sure I understood that.
Yep.
You're proposing or asking.
Mr. President?
Massive.
It is a marsh. It's been a marsh.
Especially.
It's been a marsh. So what is in the works or in the plan environmentally and for pest control? Because we know that ticks and fleas are on the rise, and in recent 3 years, ticks are bringing more and more disease and pestilence with them. So what's the plan for knocking that out, eradication and prevention?
Well, I would say especially fleas and ticks really thrive in wet, moist areas. Our biggest goal is to fix the wet and moist areas. We can't have that anyway for the park. So one of the biggest issues is down here, there's already a natural drain. Would be tying in the wettest area that is this way, sloping it all with drainage that will be underground, heading towards the wetland that's already down there, drying this area up. And if anybody's been back to this area is actually not wooded at all. There's only 2 single trees. It's actually kind of a wide open area. And there's no way you can prevent ticks from any, even neighborhood, any yard, any house. So our goal would be able to maintain, and if we need to spray at a small area, we do in some of our parks currently.
Okay. So drainage and then possibly chemical treatment.
Yes.
And would that be something where the product is posted and days that?
Yes, it would be.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
How quickly are you looking to get started on this project? You want to have it open by the fall?
Our goal will be to have everything, if you guys so choose, if it is approved through you guys, then approved through our council, to start the survey work in the middle of January or July. Once the survey work is created in the middle of July, we'll then have a better understanding of how much drainage work that we need to do. And then also we'll start the bidding process at that time as well. The nice thing with the dog park, besides the drainage problem and taking care of the drainage work and the excavating, that's the longest process in the entire step. Putting up the fences, getting the fence company out there, getting the doors and the key fobs and all that created. And then typically with the first year of the dog park, and with anybody who has dogs and has been part of a dog park, there is a process. All dogs have to have their shots. All dogs have to go in and register, have to be registered, have to be licensed before you're even able to purchase a membership for the dog park. So knowing that we want to try to go out to bid in July, late August probably have the fence, the key fobs, the doors, and late August also do some of the concrete work. Realistically, weather's always a big factor. Delays always happen, as everybody knows. I'm not going to sit here and say September 1st would be nice. I'm thinking more October 1st, middle of October.
Another question. You had mentioned the communities that requested it. Can you elaborate on that? I mean,
so when we went out for a recreation millage, we did surveys, we did a 5-year master plan. One of the biggest responses that we had was actually for our dog park. So that's why it's actually in year 1 of our community. Also, when Woodhaven decided that they were going to limit the use of their dog park, we had a lot of our residents come out and say, hey, they're limited in their dog park, where are we now going to go? I know you said that this was going to happen, and as I'm sure you guys get to see a lot as well, as soon as that millage happened in November, they want action, they want to see it now. They don't understand that there are steps, there are processes that we do have to go through, and step 1 of this process is finding a location. So we are hearing responses daily. We will have a membership fee where our residents will get a reduced fee. We will open it up for non-residents. They will just pay a higher fee. It's typical for all of our programs that we currently run through the city. So it will be open for non-residents at a higher fee, especially when we first open.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you very much. So is this something we want to see on the action agenda? Go ahead, yeah.
Quite simply, I would. I think it's a wonderful partnership idea. I have a little doggy.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely like to see it.
All right, any,
So you want to review the contract first?
well, I'm just saying yeah, but they need the next step to go through it. So that's going to be done by administration. They'll review the terms, I guess, and then bring it back to us for an action agenda when they're ready. I guess that would be my take on it.
Is that what you need from us, Dustin, is support that we would?
Yes, if I could get support tonight that says you guys are interested, what the city will do then is we'll draft up some action items that will say the city is asking for a resolution to enter into a lease or a shared service agreement with the school. Here are the terms. We'll provide the insurance. It'll be a legal document that you will be able to look over and have input from your administration side. And then you guys will be able to, once the two administrations work together with a legal document, be able to vote on the legal document.
So just to clarify, it wouldn't be action tonight?
No,
But
would
it
not
would
be
be on
action
our next
tonight.
board meeting?
Yes, correct.
Or whenever you get the item ready, if it's not the next meeting, the one after that. Well, as soon as we can get something together.
We are pretty close, so you don't have to drive too far, so we'll make sure we work it out.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Jill,
Okay,
Mr. President, can I ask a question? Jill, do we have any plans for that property that you're aware of whatsoever?
None.
Okay.
Duck hunting.
Duck hunting?
flea and
Peace
tick
out.
farm. Okay,
That'd be the answer.
next item is the June board meetings. So the June 12th meeting is a conflict. That's our standard meeting date. That's a conflict with the Asher graduation. So I think we want to talk about moving that board meeting. And then we were going to discuss whether or not we needed the 5th and the 19th, or just one of those. So I guess I'll ask administration, do you need the 5th and the 19th, or do you just need one of them?
So at the next board meeting, my plan was to submit the final amended budget for 2017-18. I'm not sure that the 5th gives me enough time to finish that.
Okay.
But the other issue is that the first board meeting in June is when the board is presented with the property tax information and has to sign the Form L-20, 4029, which is the tax rate request form that we have to turn into the cities so that they can do their tax bills. If we wait until the 19th, that's probably a little too late. I don't know if the board is opposed to doing a different night other than Tuesday.
We did an earlier meeting that day.
I'm sorry?
What about if we moved the meeting up an hour or something that day? Or 2 hours or whatever?
Before
Depends if the same date.
On the
On the
12th?
12th.
Or the Asher graduation.
Yeah, the Asher
What
graduation.
time is
which
the
we
Asher
meet-
graduation?
Seven.
Really, it's
7 p.m.
graduation's at
Start
7?
at 5:30. We have enough time, 5 or 5:30, go from here to there.
What do we have on the agenda right now?
I could probably figure it out. but-
So
I'm just saying.
we would have the budget presentation would be on the agenda.
For the
For
12th?
2017-18, it's not
No,
the,
that's not it.
it's not for next year.
If it was limited items, maybe, I don't know.
But it would be all the funds.
It's not short.
But that's not short, that's not a, that's
No.
not a quick,
Not
that's
an
not
hour and
a
a half
quick
meeting.
meeting.
It's
Okay,
not-
so that wouldn't work then.
That's not a
5 to
quick,
6:30 is not reasonable,
meeting.
so.
Right, okay.
can you find out when they need that by, the,
What time is Asher?
They're already asking when they can have it, so,
I understand they
that,
want
but I can find an exact
When
date.
do they need
but,
it?
That's the type of
Usually it's right around, somewhere between the 10th and the 15th of the month. Usually, I don't think they go any farther than the 15th. But I can verify what the last date is.
Okay.
45 minutes to get home.
Does anybody have conflicts on the 5th or the 19th right now?
But Teresa just said she couldn't get it, you wouldn't have it ready by the
Yeah, I'm-
5th.
She wouldn't have the budget ready by the 5th, and I don't think we can do it on the 12th, so,
It's gotta be the 19th
so
or
the
26th.
budget either needs to be the 19th or the
19th, right.
26th.
Right, and I've been trying to separate the two so you don't have both budgets in one meeting, because I
You
recognize.
think you're gonna need a 19th and a 16th for budget?
So the 19th and the 26th for the budgets, yes.
Okay.
And the 26th would also be the approval of the state aid note. I mean, if we had a short meeting on the 12th, my concern with the deadlines, the dates is the L-4029 that needs to go to the cities. But at this point, we don't have all the information from Wayne County for us, to determine the debt millage. So I should have it hopefully sometime this week or next week based on the timelines last year. And our financial advisors, PFM, always assist with that and go over everything to make sure we're meeting our debt requirements. So they've got everything except the couple things I'm missing. So,
My daughter Wednesday.
Days different than a Tuesday really tend to pose a problem. I think Tuesdays
Okay.
shape up best for everybody. I mean, even the room, right? I mean, just making sure we got the room is sometimes tough on a different night.
True. Yeah, Wednesdays is the city council meetings.
So what I'm hearing is you would probably like us to meet briefly on the 12th at some point before 7 o'clock, and then do a regular meeting on the 19th.
because that presentation
and the
takes about
26th.
10 minutes to do.
Okay.
Andy,
Do we have any presentations or anything scheduled right now, Joel, other than budget?
What time did the doors open at Asher last year, you remember?
6:30, 6:15, it was 6:30, 6:15.
Usually it's 1 hour before, but
6
I
o'clock,
could.
6:15.
I remember
They
it filled
do,
up pretty
they
quick.
do
Oh, the front row,
reserve,
remember?
yeah, they do reserve a place.
So if we did a brief meeting on the 12th, that would satisfy your information that you need for the cities?
So if we did that, could we move
Move it to like 6
move
o'clock?
to 6 o'clock if we don't have any other presentations?
I mean, I don't know.
5:30?
5:30 would be.
5:30 would give us more time.
5:30 would be a pinch for me, but we could probably do 5:30.
I could do 5:30.
Is 5:30 a problem for anybody on the 12th?
5:30? I feel like I'm at an auction.
Yeah, it is.
Go at 5:15.
Right here, 5:15.
So,
You can fit in a
So,
presentation, come on.
so what I'm hearing right now is that we'd like to move up the time to 5:30 on the 12th, and then we'll add the 19th as an additional meeting.
And is that gonna be, no meeting on the 26th then?
And then we will be meeting on the 26th.
She needs
Okay.
two
She
meetings
She
to
needs
do that.
both.
Okay, maybe I didn't catch that, all right.
She needs
So we're on
both.
the 12th?
There's two budget.
3 meetings in it.
There's 2 budgets that are
Right.
presented,
The close and the opening, yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
So the 12th, the 26th, and what was the third one?
the 19th.
The 19th. So the 19th and the 26th will be
Regular board
regular meetings, and then the 5th can be a special meeting,
12.
12,
or the 12th, I'm sorry, the
Special
12th
meeting.
can be a
5:30, special meeting.
5:30 special meeting. Does that sound like it meets all the needs that we're trying to accomplish? Okay. Nobody has any conflicts right now that,
There's one board meeting in July then, right?
I think in July, I think the intent is probably one meeting in the retreat, so I think that's
be around
probably the
26th.
intent for July.
No, that's two.
Where's the 26th of June?
Okay.
Okay. All right, and then the next one is superintendent evaluation. So we have a requirement to do an evaluation once a year of our current superintendent. Is that correct, Jill?
That's correct.
Jill has only been the superintendent since January. So I really don't want to get into this trick bag again of trying to evaluate halfway through. But, so does anybody have a problem with holding off the superintendent evaluation until December?
We have a timeline that we have to have it done by.
So we have to submit an evaluation effectiveness rating with the rep report that we could use an average of my last 3 years to submit for this temporary one. And then if we change the evaluation to December, June, so I remember when we did Leslie's last June, and we had 3 board meetings last June, and this would mean if we did it every December, then my December evaluation score would go on June, and then we would be in that year rotation where it would be a December.
And we have less going on in December than we do in June typically.
In my recollection, yes, because we don't I'm not
Because
gonna
we're
say.
not doing
Because we're not doing the
budgets
budgets.
and graduation and,
We also have
Anything
the
else?
opportunity to do a partial year evaluation for that when it's 6 months.
I understand. But I guess it's not required, so I guess I wanted to get a feeling of where the board's at. Do they want to do a partial? Or do you want to give Jill an opportunity to have a whole year and do it at a more convenient time? That would be my take on it, but I want to get everybody's opinion of it. Does anybody feel strongly about it one way or the other?
I felt like last year, as we were talking about Leslie's evaluation, there's 3 new board members, and I kind of felt like it was oddly staggered because we didn't have the experience prior to that. So as you're talking about what is the time period that you're trying to do an evaluation to calendar year to elected officials year, that aligns better. I'd say that last year's possibly a special case, but, and then my question is that, what is Ms. Pastor's contract? It's calendar year, right? Or is it school year?
I think it's June.
June of 2021.
It starts on July and then goes through June, right?
July 1st to June 30th.
Does it start July 1 and go through?
I started
Well, yours
January.
started January.
It'll end at the end of a school year, so, okay. Just curious about that tack time as you're bringing on new board members, if not, if maybe.
I mean, as far as a perfect time, I don't know that there is one.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we have so much going on.
It usually takes a while, too.
Yeah, that's a
Long-
meeting. It's a whole meeting. I mean,
Long process.
yeah, it's a whole meeting to do it. So, I don't know what's changed, but you don't have the option to do the emailed one or and then pass them in. Now you have to do it as an open meeting and it has to be consensus, so I'm not sure what exactly changed as part of that, but.
So I don't know if you're confusing, because I wasn't involved in that evaluation, but in December is about the same time you do your own board self-assessment, and that is available via email.
No, we did previous superintendent assessments through,
But I think
Becca
that
can
was
help me out
prior
here.
to you adopting this evaluation system. I think they
Okay.
used a different,
you used to be able to
different
do
tool.
a different system, okay.
Yeah. I think.
It was the same format, though. It was the MASB rubric that we would go through. But, I guess if you had to say, would you pick June or December? My vote would be December, but it's not official, just a consensus, so. How does everybody feel?
December would be fine with me. Because June is so busy.
Okay,
I like the thought process that you're adding in.
I don't know.
I'm fine with December.
It doesn't matter to me.
Matter? Okay, so we'll hold off on the evaluation until December.
Might breathe easier now that I have.
Now you don't have to do a
Well, because I'm doing
self-assessment.
teachers in the technology department and all the administration, so it's been busy.
Okay. All right. No more items on the work agenda, so entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support. Adjourned by Mr. Estimer, supported by Mr. Green. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. We